Being an entrepreneur is hard work, but it does have its rewards. And this week, Gail and I are chatting with Georgia Zikas, founder and principal of Georgia Zikas Design. Georgia has grown her business from a solo venture into an all-woman, multi-million-dollar high-end interior design firm. We'll be talking to Georgia about her story and how she goes about hiring the best talent and how she grows her business with strategic partnerships. Okay, so you were asking us about this week with the brand change.
Yes. How are you gals feeling about all of that change? There's been quite a bit in the last, couple of years really of the movement, right? But it's really gotten real in the last year or so, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just curious, what are you thinking from the outside?
I'm excited. I'm excited to see, this shiny little pearl.
Exactly. It's so funny. I like Erin said, here we're coming right off of the boardroom retreat where we saw you and we saw the other boardroom members, and which was awesome. And then we came right back into a regular week. But the regular week for us is the launch of the brand. So
right. It's
been a little bit intense would be a good word for it. And Erin has been a champ. So I can just brag on her for a second because she has done an outstanding job of pulling together all of the things that it takes to make this kind of a move in a business. So it's really exciting to see this all come together. And I can't wait for our website to go live tomorrow.
I know. As I've been I try to take a walk every day to just kind of help me clear my head and also get a little fresh Colorado air. And I've been just very reflective. People have been asking on our team, like, hey, do you have any pictures of you and Gail from the very beginning? And I'm like, I'm sure I do, but they're not even in our Google Drive. We've been working together for 18 years. So that's just a long time to think about that. But I'm very excited to see it all come to life. And I think that the main ribbon that, you want to tie a bow around it is obviously our website. That's been a labor of love. We've been working on that since December or January. But, behind the scenes, what I realized, there's just so many other things to change and the timing of all of it. And there's been moments when I'm like, okay, I know that this all matters. It's a big deal. It's a much bigger deal in your heart and head than it is maybe to someone else. And so let's just take a step back and realize that. But, just transferring files and archiving things. And then, I was just in a conversation with Mackenzie on switching over our social media. And she's like, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. I'm like, no, everyone's getting off work and they're going to be on social media. And I don't want them to see it yet until the press release goes out. So she's like, okay, I'm going to set a timer tonight and I'll work on it tonight. And, just the little strategic timing of things. And I have to admit, I gave Gail a link this morning for a conversation she was on to give people an option to go opt in for something. And it was on the new site. It wasn't even live yet. So we had to kind of backpedal and go, all right, how can we fix this quickly?
Right. It's moving faster than you're moving, right?
Yeah. Well, and our PR people were like, well, we can move back the press release and give you more time. And I'm like, nope, we just need to rip off the Band-Aid and do this because next week we're in New York, which I'm hopeful that we get to see you while we're there. Yeah. And it's one of those things where I'm like, it's got to happen this week because we've got other things going on next week. And then we've got market and, the list goes on.
It sure does.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for asking us about us.
Yes, I think it's kind of funny that you were interviewing us at that point, but it really was. I mean, seriously, Erin and I were giggling before you came on because it just a couple of things that had happened for both of us today. And somehow we pulled it all together. Nobody knew any differently that it was supposed to be different, and it was totally fine. So,
well, that's really the mark of a true professional, right? I mean, that's what we do every day in our design worlds too, is we roll with the band, the show must go on.
Gotta roll with the punches and just keep smiling. I think if you can just enjoy it. I think that there's definitely been times in business and this business that I haven't managed my stress very well. And once I figured out to just like enjoy the ride and trying to stop perfect it and making it perfect, that's when I realized maybe I did have the heart of entrepreneurship, because Gail has ideas and we shift and we pivot and we do all the things. And I kept trying to put it in perfect boxes. And let me tell you, this week, there's a lot of creativity and fast movement happening. I told Mackenzie today, I was like, hey, over in Canva, I'm just making what I need. So I'm not filing anything. I'm not renaming it. Like, just whatever's there is there, because it's been what we've needed in the moment. Okay.
Right. If you wait till you're ready, you'll always be waiting.
Absolutely. Well, sometimes it's just like for you, when you're getting ready to install a house, sometimes things happen and you don't have everything figured out. It's not going to be perfect. There is never such a thing as a perfect installation, right?
No, there isn't. And, when there's human variable involved, and usually not from our team, but from one of our, partners, whether it's the warehouse or the delivery crew. I mean, you can only control so many things, and all the lists, all the things we have, there might be an impromptu, moment that you have to roll with it. So you're absolutely right.
Well, let's dive into our interview today, because we are so excited to have you. And you've been around our campus for a while, but I want to start back at the beginning for you. How did you start in design, and when did you start? What was it that brought you to be a designer?
It's a great question. Of course, it's something that I've felt all my life, but it was never really a defined career at the point where I was in college. And my undergraduate degree is in communication and journalism, which I think is the backbone of my business. Really, it's communication. But it wasn't until we moved to New York City for a job opportunity for my husband that he was the one who said, why don't you go to design school? You've always wanted to do this. And, and it was, I was in my 20s. And so I enrolled in the New York School of Interior Design. And I had stacked my classes in the evenings and on weekends, and went door to door, to get a job during the day. And that's what I did. I first got a job at the D&D building in one of the showrooms, and then was quickly scooped up by a small interior designer in the Upper East Side. And I did that for about a year and a half, and then was scooped up by Gomez Associates, which was Marriott Himes Gomez. She's just to this day one of my true mentors in both business and life. She and her daughter Brooke have been monumental in my coming of age. But so I worked for them for a few years, and then and that was just a dream job. I mean, honestly, I never intended on starting my own business. But it wasn't until, again, another job change for my husband, which he jokes, he's ruined all of the, but actually it's been remarkably exciting. But so we moved up to Connecticut, and I really looked to join a firm. But honestly, it was like incomparable, that I wasn't able to link up with like a multi-designer firm in the area. And so he said, why don't you just start your own, And so I did. And that was 11, almost 12 years ago. And I started just like everybody else, out of your own home. I mean, it's a very likely story, my own home, and continued to, I saved everything I could, every penny led to the next opportunity. And I had my first daughter at the same time that I incorporated my business. And so it was like the birth of her and my business happened at the same time. And she just turned 10. So I know that, that's kind of a marker.
Wow.
I didn't make a big deal of my 10-year anniversary. But certainly it's felt like longer than that. But really, it's about 10 years now. And it's really been remarkable. I mean, we have now a team of 7. I've collected these amazingly talented women along the way. And I say women because we have an all-girl band. I mean, right down to our CFO and our CPA and our attorney. I mean, they all are these powerhouse women. We love men. We're married to many of them. And we have a great,
hopefully one at a time.
Yeah. One at a time, one at a time. But we just have this amazing camaraderie in the office and the studio. And I've been really deliberate about, who's on the team. We've sought, really educated, trained, experienced designers. So our clients are really comfortable and confident with the work that we produce. It's certainly a sophisticated, high caliber product. And so we want to keep delivering that. And so the talent on our team is enormous, and it's wonderful. But I really want everyone on our team too to earn an awesome living for their family. So that's been very important to me from the beginning. We talk a lot in our boardroom about paying people what they're worth, and ourselves included. But I feel really strongly about that. We have benefits and 401k and profit sharing, and all the things that corporations have. We are a corporation, so I'm really excited about what I've built and who I've collected and who's kind of on this crazy adventure with me. It's been a crazy adventure.
Well, it seems that in life, big things sometimes come all at the same time, right? So you mentioned that when you were incorporating your business, and then also you were having your firstborn at the same time. Tell us a little bit more about being a working mom and that balance of being, an incredible interior design firm owner, and then also an incredible mom at the same time.
Thank you. I take that role very, very seriously. And thank you, Erin, for not acknowledging that, because I'm really passionate about time with my kids and time with Jonas. I mean, you guys have met Jonas. He's an awesome guy.
Fabulous.
Awesome person. And so I think it's super important for the kids to see what mom is and who I am. And they get really excited. I mean, when they come in here and see all of our designs and our people, they're really proud, to see their little name on the door. And but it took a lot, I'd be downplaying it, to say that it wasn't hard. The first 5 years are really challenging for any business owner. And certainly for me, we moved here. We didn't know a soul in town, really. We're from the Boston area. So we didn't have any personal connections or family connections to really get started. I know a lot of people start working for friends and family and build a portfolio that way. But, I'm really proud that I always insisted people pay me for my work, but it took a lot of time. I needed the job to pay for the childcare to pay for the job. And that took I'm really passionate about sharing that with other women, because, you're not always just able to, hire a sitter without having, some income backing that. So that was quite a few years of getting comfortable and then squirreling away, everything that was made so that I could have my first hire, and start to add people onto my team.
I think it's really easy in those moments, especially when you have a little one and a young business, that you want to almost be very black and white and be like kind of all or nothing. Like, I'm either going to do the kiddo or I'm going to do the business. And, the same thing for Gail and I just continued, and there were hard days and there were really fun days, but it's just like growing a child is like growing a business as well, where it's not always going to be easy. They're not always going to do all the things that you want it to do, right? You've got to pivot and figure out different tactics with whether that's in parenting and giving parenting advice, or business and employees and clients and that sort of thing. So you're doing a good job.
And I always say, for myself and then to other new moms, I personally am a better mom because I'm working and I enjoy that. I considered, taking time off when the kids were super, super young, and it just wasn't for me. I feel like it makes me a better mom. It really does. And I think it's a wonderful thing for your kids to see.
Absolutely.
It's a modern world.
Yeah. I was actually quizzing my kids the other day, and I guess I can say this now that we officially have changed our brand name. But we were having dinner and I was like, okay, so you guys know what's happening this week? And Jack's like raises his hand. He's like, you guys are changing the name of your company and your brand. And I'm like, okay, do you know what that means? And he's like, I have no idea. And then I go, well, here's a trivia question for the two of you. What is the current name of our company? And he goes, Gail W Consulting. And Izzy goes, I think there's a coaching in there somewhere. And I go, and what is it becoming? And they're like, the Pearl Collective altogether. It was really cute. And I was like, okay, they're catching what I'm putting down over here. They're they pay attention to more than what we realize, I think, especially in seeing how we work and, and how hard we work.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. And the kids, my kids inspire me so much. They have this ability to put things very simplistically, which would kind of otherwise be quite complicated ideas. Like, for example, we have family dinner every night, and I'll be truthfully honest. I don't cook every night. That's just not my jam. And it's not my season right now. It just isn't. But whether it's, a prepared meal or a takeout meal or sushi, whatever it is, we always do have family dinner every night. And I think that that's really been valuable, but we talk every night. And so we share our little ups and downs and things. And, I'll share with the kids, I sent out this really big design plan proposal, and I'm a little nervous about it because, the client might think it's too much. And, and then, Lydia will stop and she'll say, but don't they know that you're the best at this? And that there's nobody that can do this like you do this. And, and then I said, oh my God, and, just very simply, right? Like she could be a coach. And then, she says, and did you also tell them that you would do this for free if you could? But, we have to have food and shelter.
I love it.
So I think, again, it's just like, of course, and I actually do tell my clients, I would do all of this for free, if I didn't have, other things to support, because it's just so darn, it's my passion. But it's also my business, and I'm really smart about it.
You are smart about it. And that's one of the things I have loved watching with you too. And I know you talked about the first 5 years being difficult. So let's talk about that. What were some of the challenges that you were experiencing when you were first starting your business, and before you even came to us? What was it that brought you here?
I think, it's always the chicken and the egg. It's like, when do you hire? Right. And that's kind of that question you probably get all the time. When do you hire? And it's a leap into the unknown in many ways, but it's until you have the right understanding about the positions that you need, and how to kind of maximize the potential that you're able to do. I mean, both on the size of the project, right? If I'm a individual sole proprietor, there are only a certain number of projects that you can do, each week, month, year, and so I think there's a whole bunch of things that were kind of at play, but I think that's the major question or challenge probably for other business owners too, is, how do you scale? How do you go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to, 7 to 10? And so that is probably the biggest challenge. The other thing at the time, again, 10 years ago, it was different. Instagram wasn't really, a popular thing. Even being an interior designer, wasn't all that popular. I feel like right now I could, throw a rock and hit, a lot of them. It just is. And I'm grateful that, lots of people are curious about the industry, and certainly it's been a well-received profession. But I think even on the vendor side, it was hard to get accounts. And now again, the days that's a little easier. The entry into an account, you used to be able to have to place an order for $30,000, to be able to open up, any account, and a trade account. And so that was a challenge to sort of sell yourself of the potential, right? Of like, I know what I'm doing. I know that I'm, I came from a big firm. I came from, the business acumen that I had seen, and I know that I'm going to do that and or better. And, it was sort of like sales reps, putting their confidence to say, all right, I'll make an exception, or, something like that. But I joke, it was like that Pretty Woman moment, of like, you didn't open, well, it's like when somebody doesn't open you, and then now, I don't really need your account. I don't want it anymore because you have faith in me, but it was those were a couple of challenges, business challenges right out of the gate, were, when to hire, and then, gaining those trade relationships that are so valuable that that you can then, your clients can benefit from.
I love the fact that you brought your husband with you to the VIP too. That was so interesting. And he didn't say a whole lot. I'm sure there was some conversation afterwards, but what I loved about that, and we've had many clients bring their husbands, and it's always so good because then they understand you're running a real business. You are absolutely committed to contributing to the household income, you're committed to building something that is a real business and not just a hobby. So I think that the fact that you brought him was a real testament to that. But the fact that he told you to start the business, I think, is also a great story, because that is not the common thing.
Mm-hmm.
We see a lot of people struggle with the fact that their spouses are thinking it is a hobby and that they're not serious and that it's never going to make them any money. And that is not the case. You can make a great living in this industry.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. And it was very important for me to bring him. I brought him to High Point. I think it was the season before I met you guys. I wanted him to see the enormity of what High Point is. Again, High Point, used to be hard to get into. Now I think there's it's super, easy to show up and kind of go around. But even at that time, it was a little more challenging, to attend. And when he saw what the possibilities were, where I was heading into the ideas that I we're talking about, he was totally on board, and absolutely on board with business coaching and all the details that kind of unfolded since. I mean, we're full equal partnership, like on the parenting side also, and 100% equal. I should say 50% equal.
Or 100.
100.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you've included him along your journey, right? And in the highs and the lows of all of it. And it said a lot as he was sitting there during your VIP experience. And you could tell it. He was listening to every morsel of that and taking it in, although he was quiet. I'm sure there have been a lot of conversations that have stemmed from that experience and that knowledge that he also got to understand for your business as well.
Yeah. And he's not involved in the business in any way, not financially, not, none of that. It's been 100%, on me in terms of investment, but I think, what I love about him is that he is quiet, but he's a thinker and he's incredibly intelligent, and he doesn't say things that don't have meaning, so I actually take a cue from him sometimes to just listen, stop talking and just listen. And so I loved that second set of ears to hear all of the things that were coming at both of us really for future planning. Because, what you guys do so beautifully is it's not just about today and this week and this fiscal year, but it's really about what your plans are long term. And I think that's what's important to me too, is I really have blinders on, I'm not really worrying about what's happening in the peripheral and what's, the ups and downs in the small way, but really kind of keeping focused on what my goals are. And it's hard to do, it's hard to do in a world that's really busy, right? And a lot of static and a lot of just easy distraction. But I think staying focused, and certainly he has helped me do that. And he's a huge advocate for me and every day.
That is so much fun. And I would love for you to just share maybe how much you've grown, not dollars by any means, but just how much you've grown since you did that first VIP. And since then you've been in boardrooms. So you've had the continued coaching and all of that comes with that.
Yeah. I mean, fair to say, 8 to 10 times, just enormous growth too, just personally as well. You can't ever be the same in 10 years time or 5 years time or even 3 years time. And I can't ignore, the last 3 years of this COVID experience, right? Like I could say, and I kind of jokingly say we're in the third year of a 2-week shutdown. The third year of a 2-week shutdown. And so I think in terms of growth, I mean, gosh, I can't even believe that we've now on the other side of it, got through that, as a business and a leader, and sure, our industry, has received a lot of attention with home, obviously the home industry. But it's not to say that everybody can navigate that, that change in volume and the change in the supply and, the change in just kind of how clients behave too and react. And on the employee side, that's been a lot of change, for us. And so much of it is just so positive and so wonderful. But certainly during those few years, it was not, or a couple of years, I should say, it was not. But certainly as for growing, our just from 1 to 7 people is, and that's our on payroll. That's then I have outside services that are just as many that are part of our team. But the growth has been enormous.
That's awesome.
I love it. I love watching it from the outside, and I just am so proud of you for all of your strength and just all of your focus to get that done. And some people come into coaching, and I think they're not the right people because they're not willing or committed to making the changes. But the people like you that come in and say, okay, I am going to do this. If you're telling me to do this, then I'm going to go do it. And then you get the results. And then why wouldn't you do it? And that's the thing that we try to tell people when they're coming into coaching is go all in, really, really commit yourself to making the changes, because then the other part of it is just the great stories that we get to hear about people finally having time to go on big trips with their kids, and they can actually afford to have a nanny. They can afford to have some of the things like housekeepers every week or somebody to help cook and all those things, so that they have a quality of life that is the payback for all the hard work that you're putting into the business.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm proud to say I'm one of those people who have I've been a great student, but I've also been good to myself, to give myself the gift of time. I couldn't agree with you more, Gail.
Well, it's fun. And as you are where you are, and you're so young yet, you've got plenty of time ahead of you. Yeah. And I'm curious to know what you want to build within the next 10 years. Have you thought about that?
It's a great question. So 10 seems like, wow, what's 10? Well, I will say decades. So I'm 41. So the last, my best decade yet, I think, has been in my 30. Well, I should say best is that's an interesting category, but 30 to 40 was like a really formative decade. And I think I honestly think my best years are 40 to 50 is going to be amazing. I'm really excited about the team that we have. We've talked about it internally. There's some really emerging leaders in the team. We've talked about, a second location. We have such great business in the 5 surrounding states that, like, as I mentioned, I'm from Boston originally. And so we have a lot of work in Boston and Cape Cod and Massachusetts, and then, worked and trained in New York City, and then now live in Connecticut. So that's like our Bermuda Triangle of where our, work is. But our work takes us anywhere and everywhere, that our clients and our loyal clients, that we've had clients that have been with us, 3 or 4 homes at this point. So we go in many directions. So that kind of offers us some flexibility with where our next place might be. And it might be also dependent upon where our team lands too. We have a team in different places. And so I'm excited. We have a few things in the mix, and I won't jump the gun and tell you too much about that, but it will be, expansion.
Good. Well, it's fun to see that, because you don't have to stay with just one thing. And design is really a launching pad for many of the people that we're working with. Over time, they start building their brand to something that's bigger. And I was just talking to one of our clients who's getting ready to launch a second book. And it's just, as you start looking at what the possibilities are, as long as you don't put a limit on yourself, you can do anything. It's really just a matter of putting that plan together.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we launched a private collection that we have just exclusive to our own clients right now, with a factory in North Carolina that we're working with. And that's something that was a mini dream that I had, where, you flip up the cushion and it's Georgia Zikas Design, right on the deck label. And it's really exciting because that's something small. But like you said, product design is absolutely, something we do every day for our clients and for our projects. And so I think it's exciting when you can reproduce it, if it's something that's sort of missing in the market, and that we end up putting in a project more than once. It's like, oh, well, somebody else might need that too. So I think that's definitely on the horizon too, product and some of the decorative arts. So I think there's exciting things. I couldn't put my finger on one, but I definitely know expansion, in both physical and in category.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I love that when you talk about your team, you talk about them as the leaders that are emerging. And that's such an exciting thing, especially knowing that you have this 10-year expansion vision ahead. And so one of the questions I have for you is, you didn't go into the interior design business planning to manage 7 people or more, or possibly more locations, let alone hiring just really rock stars that are already emerging leaders. So how have you developed in that, and what have you learned about yourself and managing people in the process?
So I'm a huge fan of and a huge consumer of services, and I say that by meaning, like, I don't pretend to know everything. So when a leadership coach is certainly somebody that I've sought the advice from. And I think that's really been helpful too, because like you said, I'm no doubt a CEO at this point. And so there's those CEO responsibilities, and hiring and attracting and retaining is one of those things. And so I've definitely in the last couple of years, focused more on that too, to sharpen those skills. And that's been really successful. But you're absolutely right. I beam with excitement when I talk about the team. I'm just so darn proud of them. And I didn't think, like, mentorship is also something that has come up and will continue to come up. So when you mentioned like the 10 years ahead, I definitely see that. And I also say, like, I'm living the life. I'm not ready to write the memoir yet, but that's just yet, like I'm totally living the life. But I'm not ready to reflect on it quite yet, but I know that will happen. And I want to be supportive of my team in whatever directions they go, and both with our company and then, beyond. I joke, for anybody that's going to be here and then not be here, I want to always maintain a lifelong friendship. And that's been important to me. Friendship, mentorship, any, supportive feeling. Because I do, going back to what I said in the beginning of the conversation, I really want people to be happy at work, to feel supported at work, and to feel like they have a future, with their career path and financial future too, financial freedom, all of those things. So I think it's exciting. We have, all of our designers, have at least 10 years experience and beyond, but even we're mentoring some younger people. We've always had interns in the office, and co-op, paid, everybody's always paid, but paid positions too, but young people. And so, I get the most beautiful letters, from mothers of the young women who've been in the office that have said, thank you for taking care of my daughter. And I love that. I save them. I have a little, folder of reflection. And I think to myself, gosh, I didn't really think that I was taking such good care, but I am, because I treat them like I would my own kid. I would want my own daughter to have a great boss and have a great experience with team. And so, that's been also rewarding.
What are some of the surprises along the way that you've experienced, either as a boss or maybe going through the program, and what you learned to apply? Because I know there are a lot of changes that you went through over these years.
Yeah, I think you find your people. I think one of those realizations that you're not going to be for everybody, in every sense of the meaning, whether it's on a client side, we want to always, we're people pleasers in a lot of ways, right? We want everyone to be happy and like us, but we also know that we're not for everybody, whether we spend a lot of time and effort and energy in a project, and some people aren't willing to receive that kind of service and quite frankly, pay for it too. Right. So there's that. And then also on the employee side, we really, demand excellence, and our team really demands excellence. So it's not just coming, it's coming from the top, right. That's as everybody says, but it's like really the team that really push each other too. So I think I've learned that you can't be all things to all people all at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Right. What are you most proud of so far?
Gosh, just continuity, I think, I'm really proud of the energy and the, stamina and the dedication, it's sort of endless for me. So I don't tire with it, sure, there are days, we all have those days where you're just, dog tired, but I mean, the energy it takes to continue on an entrepreneurial path and to be successful, having, multi-million-dollar company is not for the, faint of heart.
Yeah.
And so I think, as Jonas will remind me, like, I just keep getting up, I think, my stamina is what I'm most proud of, I'll be honest, but that comes from my parents. I mean, my parents have the most amazing work ethic, it's just something that they've instilled in all of us and my whole family. I mean, I'm full of entrepreneurs. I just had an interview with a magazine the other day, and I was talking about my cousins, who create amazing things and, won an Emmy for Netflix and, is making sneakers, degree from Kanye. Like, it's just so cool.
Wow.
Like, all these people are in my family and we have this spirit and entrepreneurial spirit. And we actually went to a family wedding a few weeks ago, and we were all joking because I said, gosh, in this room, like, we're all entrepreneurs. And my cousin, who has an amazing company as well, she said, it's because we don't want to work for anybody else.
Exactly.
It's just because we're so damn stubborn. We don't want to work for anybody else. So we start our own stuff. She's not wrong.
Yeah. And that is so important for you to understand that about yourself. And I was never one I did try to work for a big corporation and worked for a smaller company. And I am not geared to work for other people. I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because if I go back, I'd never intended. I would have stayed with Marriott, and Gomez Associates for forever. It was just that kind of amazing opportunity. And I think the universe just sends you in other directions and then you kind of take your path. And I agree with you. Now I could never kind of go back and work. Not for them. I would love them, but like I couldn't. I now am equipped for this.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's very interesting too to see how much you've applied, because I've just watched you do it methodically over the years. And I remember way back at the beginning, you did the VIP, and then you would just, every single time we would meet, you were showing me that you'd gotten the work done. And it was really interesting to see that, because it's not always easy to take the advice and apply it. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Very good student.
No, thank you. And it's not, I totally agree with you. It's humbling too, but it's necessary. But you're right. You have to be willing to change and willing to accept what's being served, and then apply and just don't quit.
Well, you can't. Of course you can't quit. And that's one of the things, once you're in it, it's like, oh, well, if you are having a bad day and you think, I think I'm just going to close this thing down. And then you start thinking about how much work it would take to close it down. It's like, no, I guess I'm going to, that goes away pretty quickly.
I know, that's true. We're always running financials and saying like, how much if we paid everybody that we needed to pay, and then what's your run to Paris fund? But truthfully, I wouldn't leave it. It's like, it's I don't know. I'm in it for the long haul.
There's something about it. It gets you. And once you are in the clutches of doing it, there's no way you can change that.
Totally.
I think it's either you're an entrepreneur or you're not. Some people are just meant to work for other people, which is great because you need those workers. But they need people like you too that have that vision and that drive and that passion and the enjoyment of the process, because this is not easy to run a business.
No, no, it definitely is not. And there's so much that is behind the scene that even my team doesn't see every day, you know, and as I kind of joke, I shield them from it, you know. But I think from the outside world, it can look very glamorous, right? It's a beautiful business, a beautiful profession. And, you know, but there's so many things, and the clients too, they just don't understand, you know, some of the details and the minutia that happens. But you know, what's really funny, Gail, is I'm focused a lot on who my ideal client is. And there's a lot to be said about that, and kind of, you know, you creating your avatar of what successful projects look like and all of that. But I keep coming back to my ideal clients are entrepreneurs. When I look at all the projects we've had, and we've had, you know, 200 to 250 of them at this point, and all of them have been successful in one way or another. But when I really think about how much I enjoy the human, you know, aspect of it, I really gravitate towards other entrepreneurs. And I've been telling people that more when I meet them, because they just get me. You know, they're people that, you know, time is currency. You know, time is something that they don't have. Time is something I don't have, you know. So when I say I'm a consumer of services, I really do it in my own life too, you know. If I, you know, if I can have help and have somebody else do something that then affords me to be able to stay on my track and do my job, you know, I would totally elect for that. And I think, you know, we're providing a service to another entrepreneur that they don't have the skill set for, and they don't have the time and attention for, and they're just as happy to have, you know, somebody like me and our team take the wheel, you know, take the rein. And I love that, because they will lean into the service of and that exchange of time, you know. And so time is certainly currency, and they get that.
I have a question for you, and I know this is a little bit off track, but I want to throw you a little off track. Why not?
Okay.
And ask you, in 10 years, who are you going to be? Who are you? Who's your future self? What have you learned about yourself? And what have you learned over the course of the 10 years that you're so proud of? However you want to answer that. I'll give you a second to mull that over.
Wow. So 10 years, and I'm such a mother at the heart. Like 10 years puts my kids, you know, at 20 and 17.
Wow.
And so to me, that is going to be the measure of a lot of successes of what I did right. So I really see myself enjoying that part of my life as my girls are becoming young women and young adults. And so wherever they end up going to college, I'll definitely camp out, you know. So if Lydia goes, and Lydia's telling me she's going to go to Harvard or MIT, so that sounds like Boston. And a girl can dream. But I do think, you know, that in 10 years, I definitely see a second location for us. You know, I'm from Boston, I'm from the Cape and Islands, so I love that region. You know, I've got my two little girls, I've got a city mouse and a country mouse. So then my smallest, you know, she just wants to be in the country. So if she's in Vermont, then I'm going to have a place in Vermont. So I think, like, I really do look at 10 years, you know, truly as a mom first, because it's like, where are my children going to land? And then where are we going to, you know, kind of yield life to that a little bit. I think on the business side, I definitely, I see product. I see product, you know, product.
Could I redirect this a little bit right here? Because it's really about who you are.
Oh, okay.
We've kind of talked about the business part, so we'll do a little edit here.
Do you want to maybe just start that question over, Gail?
Yeah, yes. So this is taking you into the future self about who you are as a person, what you've learned as a person, maybe what you've learned as a leader, some of those types of things. That's what I'd really like to hear you maybe think about, because that future vision for yourself is the power behind whatever the vision is for your business. So think about it from that perspective for a second. and see what you might have come up for you.
Do you mean in the sense of, because I see myself as a leader in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I see myself developing more of those positions. So, for example, I'm a member of the Design Leadership Network. Thank you. I definitely see it's a respectable professional group and organization, and I see myself taking more of a stance in that organization. I'm also on the board of the IFDA New England chapter as a vice president of education. So I want to mentor the younger folks, which that's part of my position on that board. So I see myself as a leader in the industry.
That's great. And I know you want to do more speaking. Obviously, we've got you here on the podcast, but I think that's a big part of it. Is I see people develop their skill sets. They become speakers for different industry events, and maybe you'll have a book out at some point as well.
Yeah, I love. Oh gosh, that's absolutely in the plan.
I mean, you could always become a Pro Collective coach in the next 10 years.
Who's to say? I'm writing the memoir.
That's exactly right. It's so funny because we've had people that I've said that to a few years back, and now they're just making that leap to become coaches. And I think that's one of the things is we want to build that ecosystem of the coaches coming from our programs and coming back and wanting to teach, because that shows that they have actually accomplished what they wanted to accomplish as a result of the coaching. So I think that's really great. And I would love to see you be a coach for us.
That would be fun.
Yeah, it'll happen. It's on your 10-year plan. I'm not sure.
It's on my 10-year.
So Georgia, we always like to leave our listeners with 3 things that they can take back to either their business or their home life as we go through our podcast together. So what would you like to share kind of as final thoughts here in our podcast today?
Okay. Number 1, read a lot of books. Read a lot of books and read everything that Gail tells you to read.
Okay. That's a lot.
I will say my favorite is The Go-Giver. That was actually really enjoyable by Bob Berg. Another takeaway is, entrepreneurship is really intense. And so I think it's important to have a lot of fun and find out where are the parts in your life that bring you joy and make you remember why you're doing what you're doing. And my personal why is certainly my kids, and it's travel and experiences. The third one is get involved. Get involved. So I think get a coach, hire you guys.
Okay.
Find a community that is that are your people. So, the community that I love in Boardroom is, we are true friends. We really share deeply, and it's, you all have skin in the game. So you're in a community. You're part of each other's success. You're sitting around tables and you're talking about really good meat. In the business sense that you don't really chat about with girlfriends over dinner. It's intense. These retreats are intense. And I love that about it. It's sort of, we're all like-minded, and we go from, a session in the retreat to then, a dinner or a cocktail party, and we're continuing the conversation. I mean, literally until 12 or 1 in the morning. I love it. And just continuing that business conversation sort of shamelessly, because we're all in the same mindset, so I think finding your community is that third takeaway, or even quite frankly, the first, that find your community and really stick to it and enjoy the ride with them.
It's really fun to watch that development of the relationships and really the love for each other, because there's so much support that happens. We've gone through marriages and divorces and all sorts of different things, life experiences, health challenges, you name it. And if you have people that care about you, that are not just your friends, but people who understand the trials and tribulations of running a business, there's something really special about that. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being with us today. And hopefully we'll get to see you next week. If not, we'll for sure see you at market, and stay healthy. And congratulations on all of your recent interviews and awards and all the things. I keep screen capturing on my phone, like, oh, there's Georgia. I've got to do something with this. Yeah, I've got to share this with everybody. I've got to give her a high five. So congratulations. It's been exciting to see you grow.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate that. Really. Thank you.
We hope you feel inspired by Georgia's story and have learned some valuable lessons about building a perfect team. And this should give you plenty to think about going into the long Thanksgiving weekend. So be sure to take plenty of time to rest and absorb everything you've learned this week. Next week, we'll be back with another episode and even more to learn.